Welcome to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast, where your host, Cassandra Crawley Mayo, helps you break free from obstacles and live life on your terms. Get ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and inspiration. Tune in as we dive into captivating conversations with experts and explore topics that will ignite your passion and drive. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Let's dive in.
Good day out there to all my listeners, and I'd like to welcome you to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. And I'm your host, Cassandra Crawley Mayo. And for those new listeners out there, let me tell you a little bit about what this podcast is about. It's for individuals who are stuck. This is for individuals that, there are things that you want to do in your life. And if I ask you this question, are you living your best life on purpose? And I give you a scale from 1 to 10, and 10 being the highest. What would you rate yourself? Just think about that for a minute, because if you're in between, anything you rate yourself is okay. But yet I'm on a mission to empower purpose-driven women to start living your best life on your terms. So that's why this podcast is geared for individual, what I say, self-development, self-improvement, and also enable you to do some self-reflection. And I'm always prayerful that one of my podcasts will give you like an aha moment, say, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. And based on what I heard today, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to make it happen. So therefore, I bring guests on my podcast that I would say play a significant role in what it is that I would like to do for all of my listeners. So today, the name of the podcast is Dropping Seeds with Impact and Purpose. And I want to ask you this. Have you ever felt like boxed in by the rules? Whether in the lab, the classroom, or life itself, like there are rules. But what if the way out wasn't more structured, but more of a movement? So today, I'm going to speak to Sesha, and she's going to repronounce her name for me. I've tried this before. Jackson Woodard. She's a powerhouse scientist who traded white coats for dance floors to inspire the next generation of STEAM leaders. With over 20 years in pharmaceuticals and a heart for youth empowerment, she is reimagining what education and equity look like through a program that literally puts purpose in motion. So get ready, guys. Get ready to hear how she broke free from convention, launched her own movement, literally, and it's helping others get out of their own way. And trust me, you've never heard a story like this one. Let me introduce her to you now. Okay. Hey, Sesha.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Hey, did I pronounce it correctly?
You did. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, I'm glad you are here. And I probably won't say your name anymore during this podcast in case I messed it up, guys. Now, before I start, although I talked a little bit about what you've done and what you're doing, but I want to read a little more of your bio so individuals will get a better understanding of what qualifies you to do the work that you're currently doing. So as I indicated, my listeners, she's a scientist, an educator, and a national health equity leader with over 20 years of experience in the pharmaceutical and preclinical research industry, blending her deep knowledge of STEM with a passion for youth development and educational reform. She founded the Dropping Seeds in Motion. That's a transformative initiative that integrates movement and dance with STEAM learning to close academic gaps and ignite purpose in students and educators alike. Her innovative approach equips youth, educators, and early career professionals, especially from underrepresented backgrounds with the tools to thrive in STEM and beyond. So, listeners, as she talks to us today and we have this conversation, if you have children, if you're a grandparent, if you're an aunt, if you are and have nieces, just listen to this. I think this is evolution to me, an evolutional moment. It could be revolutional based on what my passion is as well. So I want her. Well, I'm going to ask her this: before you found the dropping seeds with impact and purpose, tell us a little bit about what was going on with you before that time.
Sure. So I was an earth science teacher at the time. My background is in preclinical research. However, there was a short while I served as a high school earth science teacher. And it was in that class where I had a revolutionary thought, a moment.
Okay.
I was teaching from the textbook. I went through with worksheets, and God showed me that there was an opportunity. And what was the opportunity? Was to take all of my gifts, all of my talents. I had danced for 30 plus years of my life, from tap, ballet, modern African jazz. I was also a scientist. So I said, how can I make an opportunity for these students to learn in a different way, to get out of the textbook, to get off the worksheet? And so that's how Dropping Seeds in Motions started.
Now, let me ask you. So you were a teacher, right? Initially.
So
actually, pharmaceutical, right?
Mm-hmm. So I started out. So my degree is in laboratory animal science, and I worked as a scientist conducting preclinical research studies for several years. There was a part of time in my career where I had my first child, and I was at home with her, and I was slowly transitioning back into the pharma space. Well, that transition within that window, it allowed me the opportunity to actually work as a science teacher for a short while. So yes, that's a revolutionary moment for me at that time.
So when you were growing up, because one of the things that we talk about here on Is Your Way and Your Way, is there something you were a dancer, but was it something you always wanted to do in growing up, or was it totally different?
I always loved being in nature.
Okay.
I always loved being outside. My father worked in herbal medicine. He loved being in nature. So oftentimes he would take me and my sister out swimming and just to be in nature. We would hug trees, just embracing nature. Now, at that time, I didn't really know that I had a passion for science until I started to get older. So really, my passion for science started in nature, started being, it's just experiencing nature and embracing it. And seeing how all the synergies of life just works together, from the rain, the grass, the trees, all of that. So that's where my passion for science started. Also, my mother was a medical doctor. She was a physician, Dr. Cassandra Magruder, practiced in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for many, many years. And her passion to work in the community, she's left that mantle on me.
Okay.
I have a passion to help the next generation, that now generation, be inspired in the area of science as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. But because, it's interesting because a lot of people try to figure out, well, I'm currently in this role right now, but it's like something is calling me, like it's something else that I know I should be doing, but I just can't put my finger on it, and I'm stuck. But you realize at a young age, science, nature was your thing. So you made a decision maybe to pivot and really get into what your passion is and included it with movement.
Yes. And I think sometimes people think they have to do one or the other.
Okay.
I believe that when we show up in the world with all of our gifts, with all of our interests, with all of our talents, you can do it all. I still work in the pharma space. I'm a manager at Johnson & Johnson as well. I'm also an entrepreneur and an author. And I also still work with kids, and I train teachers, and I train educators, and I mentor. So that's when you talk about being stuck, who said the box is there? The box doesn't exist. We put ourselves in the boxes here in our mind, right? So for me, it was acknowledging my gifts and talents and knowing that there was something more that I wanted to do, a greater calling, a greater purpose that God wanted me to plant in the earth. So for me, it was just stepping out and taking the leap of faith.
Oh, wow.
Challenging, but when you step out and you're prayerful about it and you're allowing the Lord, for me, my faith is a big part of my work, my walk as a believer in Jesus Christ. When you step out and believe God is leading you, everything else will fall into place.
Okay. So that's why in the beginning, I'm like, a lot of us think we're boxed in these rules, like we should, have this job when we graduate from 9 to 5 or whatever. And then after that, get married, have a white picket fence, have kids, all of that. But I see that things are changing for many of us as women. I want to know about, tell us a little bit about the integrating the dance. Like, how do you do that? Like, give us some examples. The movement with STEM learning, because STEM is like science, well, tell everyone what STEM is.
Sure. Yeah.
Everyone knows.
So STEM, or what I like to use the term is STEAM, adding the A for arts as a dancer. So STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And the A could be visual arts, it could be poetry. But for me, with my 30 years of experience as a dancer, it's dance. And I get that question a lot. What does it look like? I mentioned I love science growing up, like to be in nature. I can see science move. I think that is a gift that I have. Science moves all around us. So take, for example, photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process by which plants use to make their food. So they need light, they need soil, and they need nutrients, right? They need light and water. And so part of what I do when I work with kids is that we become this process. So I'm also a choreographer, so I choreograph movement as well, and dances. So if you could just imagine, if you have a group of students, they're learning about photosynthesis, the sun, the soil, the water, you bring it in sound as well. You have students who can group together and be the sun rays. You can include movement with the dances when you're talking about sun rays. Water, the students can actually become the water, right? And even the soil. So there's different movements that can be integrated and incorporated together to help the students learn and retain the information. In fact, there's thousands, and I mean thousands of studies that support when kids are moving, their brain is engaged, their body is engaged, and they can actually remember more of what they are learning. And in fact, I've seen it myself. I work with pre-K kids all the way up through high school, and it's amazing the amount of content that they can retain and learn and actually enjoy learning it, right? When you think that movement in a learning environment.
Ready to design your dream life? Join Cassandra Crawley Mayo's Create and Design Your Best Life workshop. Break free from self-doubt and obstacles and step into a life of purpose and fulfillment. Click the link in the description to register now. Don't wait. Spaces are limited. Start living your best life today.
Okay, give us an example of something that you teach or have taught individuals and they sustained it as a result of movement.
So I'll go back to the example of photosynthesis, the process by which, plants make their food. One of the things that I try to do in every workshop where I'm working with youth is to do an assessment. Sometimes that word assessment can make students nervous, but however, I want to make sure that when I show up in the workshop that they're learning it, the content, and they're retaining it. Part of what I do in those workshops is at the end, my assessment is a movement assessment. So I might have them line up in a line, right? Or if there are students who have some physical disabilities, I'm adjusting for that as well. I might say, a true or false question. If I say photosynthesis is not the process by which plants make their food. If you think that's true, tap your head. If you think it's false, step forward. And so now I can visually see what areas I need to reinforce. If everybody steps back or if one or two people tap their head, I can do an assessment without pointing out a student and say, you tell me this, you answer this question. So when I show up and I do the workshops, I facilitate these workshops, the content, the science content is aligned with the science standard at the grade level. So they're going to be learning the content already, or they've already learned it, and I'm just reinforcing. And that's how I make it really, really impactful to help set them up for success, because I'm not just there twirling around with the students. They're learning, they're having fun, they're moving around, and they have retained it. They've learned it for the first time. They're reinforcing it, and they're having fun. And you should see the teachers too. The teachers, they just sometimes they jump right in and enjoy it. And that really helps with teacher-student rapport, class cohesion. The research supports that it decreases poor behavior problems. There's so much research out there that says that students are more focused when you're integrating physical activity, movement in the classroom. So I'm passionate about it. I train teachers as well on best practices. I have a framework that I share with them as well, the how to.
Okay. When you were teaching, which you still teach, but what grade was it? Is it a certain grade?
So I have taught from pre-K all the way up to, mentoring through the college level, but specifically for integrating the dance and science, it's been pre-K all the way up through middle school.
Okay. Why do you think it's essential to prepare students for the next in today's society?
So one of the things that I am seeing as someone who has worked in pharma for 20 years, working on global teams, multicultural teams, multi-generational teams, I've noticed that there is a gap from where they come from, the education system to the workforce. And so when you talk about being in school, being in college, learning the technical skills, that's great. The technical skills are important. But what I'm finding is that there's an opportunity. I don't like to say challenges. There's opportunity, right, to help train these students to have the emotional intelligence, to learn how to work together in a team, to understand what it means to work in a multi-generational team, because when students graduate from school, they're going to be on a team where you may have someone who's a baby boomer. You may have someone who's a millennial like myself. I'm Gen Zers. I'm raising Gen Zers now. So sometimes they say, oh, Mama, you're such a millennial. So I think it's really important to prepare our students for what they are going to expect when they get out here in the real world. And a part of the framework that I've developed hits around that. And there's questions, there's content sitting around how they can show up and really understanding the team dynamic where they work, even the emotional intelligence as well.
Wow, that's good, because I have a chapter in my book about, once you get out of school, like you're indicating, go to college. And I'm like, so now welcome to the real world. And I recall when I relocated to Birmingham, Alabama, I wasn't ready for what I was up against, with the racism and the different cultures and all of that. And so how would you, let's say at the college level, or maybe the senior in high school, what are some of the things that you do to prepare them for the real world?
So as I mentioned, I do have a framework that I've created that is called Proactive. And it really digs into, planning, the piece where like planning for change. One of the things that I think is really important. And the R is renewing your mind. There's several different elements of it. But because I have a rising high school senior myself, so we have conversations about this as well.
Okay.
One of the things there's so many things I could talk about, but one of the things that's most important, I think, is to be flexible, is to prepare for change.
All right.
I have an example. When I first started working at Johnson & Johnson, I was hired for one role. Within a couple months, there was a reorganization of the department. And my manager where I was working with, I had now had a new manager in a whole new role. There was no successor to that specific role in that specific position. So I was put in a position where I had to figure it out with the resources that I had. I had to know what questions to ask. I had to know who to go to ask the questions to actually do my role in an efficient way. So here I am, got this job right out of school. I mean, right after my previous role as a quality assurance auditor, and there's a shift, there's a change. Now, I could have wallowed in that place. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? But no. How do you plan for change?
Okay.
Planning for change is renewing your mind. Planning for change is asking the questions to the right people. It's finding the information. It's being prepared for it, like expect it, because it's going to happen.
Right.
That's one thing that I would say, because also it's really, really important to be flexible. Being flexible means that you are agile. You're agile in how you work. You're innovative. Things are changing constantly. Look at technology. I remember I was
change every day.
And there was an old school rotary phone, and my kids were like, "What is that? What's that for?" So, being flexible and changing is really important.
Okay. Well, when do you start? So you teach that with your framework, but do you start that at a certain age group?
The framework? So I believe that you can actually implement those skills as early as you can. Okay. When you think about it, us as human beings, we're comfortable with what we're comfortable with. I mean, think about it when you go to church or your religious organizations, or the way you take to go to work or school every day. It's usually the same thing. You usually sit in the same place, right? But when you are intentional about changing and doing something different, there's a mind shift that happens. And the something different could be learning something different. For example, I'm also a part of the Society of Quality Assurance, which is an organization that supports quality assurance professionals, providing training and education. A couple of years ago, there was an opportunity for me to lead the organization as the chair of the STEM Outreach Committee.
Okay.
I love working with STEM. I love working with outreach. And I was being pushed to actually take that role. It was uncomfortable at first because it was new. There was no one who had done it before. So I think that's really important to pay attention to raise the Holy Spirit, to know when the Spirit is pushing you to greatness, pushing you to grow. Because when you stay in a place of comfort, you could potentially get stagnant, and you want to grow. Right. So it's really important to be able to push yourself, challenge yourself, because that's how you grow.
Right. So listen, so today, STEM jobs, so to speak, are king, queen. If I could get more students to get in that field of the science, the technology, even the arts, as you're talking about, math, and you talk about how you speak about overcoming limiting beliefs. And I think, and I don't know, but a lot of people aren't in those I think more women. It was like a lot of men, but more women are getting into that program, and they didn't before because of limiting beliefs. So what do you think was the part about why won't they get in that program? What is that about, you think?
I think that's a really good question, a really, relevant and timely question. My background was such that I grew up with, my mother was a physician, as I mentioned. Right. So I saw, and she was a chair of the National Medical Association. So I saw people who looked like me, who were doctors, physicians. I saw that growing up. Literally, my mother would drag me to her medical meetings.
Okay.
So I saw representation. I saw myself in the field. She put me in different programs. My dad also put us in different programs to help expose us to the industry. I know representation matters. When students see themselves. So, for example, when I go to the schools, I've done some work in some rural areas as well. When I show up, I'm inspiring them. I'm speaking life over them. I'm telling them, you can be a pharmacist. You could be an epidemiologist. This is what I've done. And so when they see it, and then the flesh, they're like, well, wait a minute. I sure can do that. I was working at a summer camp at Fayetteville State, facilitating a workshop, and we were talking about polymer science. And at the end of the workshop, this young lady comes up to the table because we had an experiment as well. She's like interested, intrigued. I'm like, did you think this is interesting? She said, yes. I said, well, maybe you consider, studying a material science. So all you need is one seed. All you need is one engagement for them to see, oh, yes, that can be me. You know what? I will pursue it. I will do it. And that's part of my purpose here on earth, is to inspire those who might not ever see anybody that looks like them in STEAM.
Wow. So dropping seed with impact and purpose, it is our title. How, like my listeners that have children, not only children, but people in their family that are underage, what would you suggest, or how would they be able to get them that exposure that you had, because you were in that family? So it was kind of easy for you because your mom was a doctor, your dad was big on nature. How would you share, or what would you say for them to get that type of exposure?
Good question. So there are a lot of organizations, both for-profit and nonprofit, that provide different opportunities for students to experience STEAM. What I would suggest is try your local community colleges, try your local universities. I mentioned I work with Fayetteville State through Dropping Seeds in Motion. They had a 21st century learning program at the time. I'm not sure if that program is still in operation. However, there are a lot of programs in those spaces. Go on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Like, do a search for programs in that space. Myself, I can bring workshops to any organization if you're interested in having some science and movement at your school, university, church, and have a great experience for the students. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. Some of them are low or no cost.
Okay, I was going to ask that. Yeah. Okay. So it's like your research.
But if you wanted to bring a Drop of Seeds in Motion science and dance experience to your organization, your community, just get a group of kids together, and I would love to help support there.
Sure. Let me talk about math. I'm thinking about this movement thing, like when you are instructing someone to do a math problem, and I hear people say, math was not my thing. And then there are individuals that love math. Now, an individual that's not really good in math, but really need to know math, when you get older, you can't get over trying to figure out the percentage of this and the percentage of that. What type of movement, like for example, if somebody wants to understand what percent, I don't know, 20% of $100 or whatever. What is that? What type of movement? What do you do with that as an example?
That's a good one. So what I initially feel and see with that. So I might have mentioned this to you, but I'm trained in action-based learning, which is the pedagogy of teaching related to when the brain and body are connected, students can remember more. It was created by James Blaze Multi. One of the things that is important to know is the foundation of learning is rhythm and beat. So rhythm and beat. You remember back in school when we used to learn different songs? We used to learn different, at least I did in school, different beats. Well, that was strategic because it was a foundation of learning. So back to the question about percentages and beat, percentages of different numbers, you can actually pull that A out, that art, and have the students create a song or a dance related to, with their own rhythm, their own beat, because students are always moving and dancing usually. Help them remember how to take 20% of what you say $100. So what happens is that when you can give them an example, what happens is that they're taking ownership of their learning. Not only are they doing that, if they include the music, the rhythm and beat, they're also developing their brain as well. They're also taking an opportunity to take advantage and take a hold of their own education and their own learning. And they can use that for other subjects like English, like physics.
Interesting. Because I know, there are individuals listening, when we talk about living your best life on your terms, there are many individuals say a piece of that, and it could be personal, business, living your best life. And many people will say, I want my child to be successful. What does that look like? I want them to be great in school, or I want them to go to college, or how would this? So one of the things you said is based on your instructional learning that you've seen students really enjoy it. They're having fun. And, just think about that. They're having fun, but they're sustaining what they're learning and they're excelling. And is there a percentage of individuals that you worked with that you believe go to college as a result of how you taught them, what they picked up? Is there?
So there are about 33,000 studies, over 33,000 studies that support students in a space with physical activity and learning and being successful. One of the things that you mentioned is parents wanting their student to be successful. What does success, ask the question, what does success look like for your student or for your child? Success vary. All students might not go to college, and that's the other part as well. There are students who may, take a trade, or there may be students who want to go straight into entrepreneurship. I think that's really important when you're asking that question about success. Define success, because success will be different from the one person to the next. And I think it's really important for parents, guardians, to really lean in and really understand the gifts and talents of those that they are studing, those kids that they have. The college might not be for all students. It's really important to know what their gifts and talents are, and to help them be their advocate, and to make sure that they are being introduced to different opportunities that will expose them to different areas that they're interested in, and even new opportunities they wouldn't even think of. And success could look different for the next person.
Okay. Because, right now, like you indicated, technology changes to me every day. I'm like, oh my gosh, now it's something different. But a lot of us people, students, young adults, they're on that phone. They're using the phone to tell them what time it is. If you put a clock up there from 1 to 12 and you say, well, what time does that clock say? But they could look at the digital, do you believe, even though STEM is critical and they are encouraging individuals to get in those programs because that's where the jobs are, so to speak, um, what do you see as the pros and cons of technology for the kids today?
Mhm. That's a good question. So I am considered a millennial, if you want to label me.
Mhm.
One of the things that I think is really important is to have an understanding of both.
Okay.
Because at any time, at any day, you might not have technology. And so by way of that, I mean, what if there's a power outage, right?
Right.
What if there's a bug that comes into our computers and we can't do our work, right? We can't be connected.
All
So
right.
what I tell my students, my kids actually, that I have, is that you need to ask the questions. Well, if this happens, how would you function? Like if you didn't have your phone, how would you figure it out? I remember back in the day, actually, I was just talking to my kids about it, traveling with my mom and my dad and my sister on road trips, and we had a map. We would get the triptychs from AAA, and we would pull out the map.
Right.
And we could figure that out. Because I think that there is a level of critical thinking that needs to continue to occur when we take the technology. We don't want the machines to think for us. We don't want that. But STEM is very, very critical in that, as you mentioned, technology is changing, STEM is changing, every day. We need the people to build the technology. We need those people, those students with those critical thinking skills, that innovation, that creativity in STEM. So I think that there needs to be they need to be on both sides of the fence. That's what I share with the next generation, is to really have an understanding of what could you do if this was to happen, if there wasn't technology. It's going to be really important as well as we moving forward in life.
Now, I asked this question before, but I'm going to ask it again only because individuals being stuck and not moving forward, or, and I give you a personal example. I've always wanted to do like a TED Talk. All right. And I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. But what's going on is those limiting beliefs, and those limiting beliefs, we all have them. But you talked about, one of the things you even speak about is overcoming them in preparation for your next. Take us through an incident or a story or a methodology that you do with your students to overcome, and not students, maybe teachers, to overcome these limiting beliefs. How do you do that?
So limiting beliefs are, I believe, are one of the biggest hindrances from people really maxing out all of their gifts, all of their talents. And it comes down to your mind. It comes down to, your previous experiences, whether you had a positive experience from a different organization, whether you had a negative experience with someone who had a similar title, someone within a similar industry. There's a lot of touch points when it comes to limiting. However, as I mentioned, my faith is a big part of walk. And I know that a big part of it is why I'm here today and able to max out, because I know I was created with a purpose. I was fearfully and wonderfully made. So for me, what I do, what I tell people I work with and I mentor students, I tell them, your gift is your gift. Despite what the other person next to you may have, it's not the same.
Right.
I shared this in the past too. If someone has the same title as you within the same company, organization, or even a separate company, they cannot do it like you do it.
That's right.
Organizations who support and work in the area of STEM and science and arts and dance. But God called me to do this the specific way. And I think that it's important for us to, as my bishop says, watch what we say and watch what we speak, because there's power in our tongue. So when I work with kids, students, all ages, I'm constantly encouraging them. I'm constantly saying, you can do it.
Right.
And I think that oftentimes when I mentor college students, recent grads, they see positions they're interested in, and they see that, oh, I don't have that qualification. Hold up. Wait a minute. Let's talk about that. Because what I found with working in industry is that you need to be able to speak to and articulate your transferable skills. Oftentimes, that's that confidence piece that needs to be developed. A limiting belief it's pseudo. It doesn't exist in my world. It's how can we change our mind, shift to thinking, how can you show up? How can I take an experience that I've had, whether it's volunteering, whether it's a challenge that I've had at an organization, how can I make that fit what I'm looking for, where I'm wanting to go in life? And I think that's what we have to do. We have to build community around it, build connection around it. We need to talk to each other. We need to get off our phones sometimes. I mean, honestly, I walk down the street and I want to say hi to people and look in their eyes, and they're like,
that's right.
Connection. And I think that it's really, really important working within the space I've been working in for many, many years, that rapport, that connection, while technology is great, you can't replace it.
Right.
I work with people all around the world, from Belgium to France to the Netherlands, and that people connection is going to be a game changer, because people want to be able to see that you can work in the teams. And that's part of what I share and mentor students and, facilitate the workshops with them as well.
Right. And that's good. Preparing them for the next.
Yes.
And making that connection with individuals. I was listening to something the other day, and you know how individuals, you meet somebody and you say, so what do you do? I'm like, I'm an author, just like that, rather than saying, based on what you do, what is it about what you do that you really like? Open-ended, to start the connection, because you're right. We are, because we're so busy doing, on the phone, on the computer, we don't make that connection. And connection, to me, is critical. Never underestimate the power of relationships. We need them. We need each other. We need the community.
Yes.
So you're so right with that. Unbelievable.
And I agree, because, as I mentioned, I'm on global teams, and, I work with many people, even in my entrepreneurship endeavor. When I show up to a meeting, if this is our first time meeting, or if, this is a meeting where we've been together, for several cadences, I'm trying to connect with them. It could be something what seems super small, like having a similar interest. That goes a long way when you just ask what your interests are. Share a little bit about yourself. You don't have to tell your whole life story, but
exactly.
Because what I found too is that when you made that connection, there's a certain energy and synergy that happens in a team that's positive when you make that connection. So it is a good business decision to do that, right? So it makes good business sense to connect with your teams, because at the end of the day, you meet your goals in a better way.
Exactly. And if you think about it, a lot of people are working from home, and it's by themselves, and that's socialization, it kind of stagnates individuals, I'm not saying anything's wrong with it. I used to work from home, and I loved it. But then there was a time when I'm like, I think I want to go in the office and see what's going on, and things of that nature. What could my listeners do as parents, grandparents, aunts, nieces, uncles, as I said, to carry on the legacy that you're doing now? What can they do?
Be present, advocate for your youth, ask some questions, talk to them. My husband is an educator as well. He was created and anointed for it as well. And one of the things that when we talk about the importance of really showing up for our kids. What does that look like? It could be something simple as you not having your phones at the table when you're having dinner and asking them a question. How was your day? How did that make you feel when this happened? Like, what made you smile today? Because what I found is that when you have that authentic connection, and that's what I do when I work with students, through my STEAM extension through success and dropping seeds in motion, I talk to them. Nobody's talking to our kids. I shouldn't say nobody, but there's an opportunity for us to really grab them and hug them.
Yeah.
The mental health is real.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when you make that connection, whether it's your niece, your nephew, whether you just call them and say, how are you doing today? Is there anything I can do to support you? When I have students, that reach out to me on LinkedIn who want to have a quick chat, if my schedule allows, I'm connecting with them. I'm meeting with them because that's part of my purpose. I'm not telling everybody to do that, but the connection is important, the community, and not just an email or a text. Like, let me hear your voice.
Yes.
God didn't put sound in the earth just for us to mute ourselves.
Right. Okay. That's good. And I love it about dropping seeds with impact and purpose. And for those individuals that are in their way, you definitely shared some things that will help some individuals get out of their way if they found that they were in their way, because there are individuals that have so much going on. I know people that give the child a phone, an iPad, and let them, because I need to do this. I'm busy, so let me give them that, and not knowing the impact it can have on individuals when you don't. Like when I was growing up, and I maybe I'm dating myself, but we ate as a family, and some people can't do that, but when dinner was ready, you got to be at the table. I'm like, oh man, we never ate by ourselves unless, somebody was busy, had to work or whatever. But that's where we made the connection. We have had a conversation, and I take that on now as I am more mature, not older. But if I'm going to eat, I eat, with my husband, or we just all sit down and eat together. So I love what you're doing, and for my listeners, just think about what it is that you want to do to start having, if you're not your best life, but whatever you do, you want to make an impact and make a purpose, because it's not all about you. And I confess. At times in my life, it was all about me. You know what I mean? But I have learned that it's not all about me, and you get more joy and connect when you are sowing in others' lives.
Absolutely.
As you do. You have more fulfilled and more purpose.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I echo what you said. You have, to your listeners, you have a purpose. You have an assignment and assignments for you to complete here in the earth. And I just, want to say that those thoughts that you have, those ideas, do them, put them on paper, write it down. That's how I wrote my first book. God gave me a vision because, like I mentioned, I was, I love nature, and He gave me the title years before it was birth.
Right.
So I encourage you, write it down and it will come to pass. You got to put in the work, but
That's
it will
right.
come to pass. And
Absolutely.
listen,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the last year, the Holy Spirit told me that God said, you need to write this anthology. So and I'll just quickly share, part of what God has given me also is to build community and connection. Over my 20 years, I've come across many awesome Black and Indigenous people of color, women in STEAM with amazing journeys. And sometimes it can be very lonely because you're in spaces where you may be the only one.
Exactly.
And what I found is that there is a connection, there's community. These women have great journeys, triumphs, successes that need to be heard, need to be shared. And so the book I have coming out is called Seeds of Germination, where it highlights their successes and triumphs and challenges. So the intent is not for me, but it's for us as a community, so they can see, oh, I had that similar challenge, but I still succeeded. Oh, that happened to me. Oh, that person still succeeded. So we have to tell our stories. We have to put them down on paper. The book that you want to write it. The program you want to start it. The mentorship program, that app that you want to develop, do it now. Now is the time.
Yeah. Seeds of germination.
Yes.
Nothing but nature, right? Well, let's tell my listeners how they can get in touch with you.
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me on my website is seshawoodard.com, or you can go to droppingseedsinmotion.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. And you can also find me on the common social media platforms. I'm on Facebook, Facebook is Dropping Seeds in Motion, and Instagram is DSIM.
Okay. Sesha.
Send me an email. You can send it to info@droppingseedsinmotion.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for dropping those seeds. And you have really spoken into my life. And I know you've spoken to many of my listeners as well. Okay. So thanks again. Thanks for being a guest on my show. And as I always say, bye for now. God bless. And I love you. Thanks again.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you've been enjoying our empowering conversations, make sure you don't miss out on future episodes of Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. Stay in the loop with all the latest episodes. Join our mailing list over at CassandraCrawley.com. And before you go, hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe now. Until next time, let's get ready to live your best life.